Okay, part two of the hatchery fish talk. I got a nice shadow here, so excuse the videography skills or lack thereof. Just doing some philosophy talk here. I just did a little piece about the parallel between mainstream society and hatchery fish. So basically, to recap the last video, is that we've bred out all the things that make species viable on this planet. So, and that's a hatchery fish. You know, to draw a parallel, hatchery fish just swim around and around in a man-made environment, in a unnatural environment, eating whatever's thrown in the tank. And usually that's Purina dog chow labeled as Purina trout chow. So that's a pretty easy parallel to get. Okay, and so that's the thing. Look at the stark difference between hatchery fish and, you know, wild fish. And, you know, we live on this planet, so we have to live, you know, in accordance with natural laws and understand these things. Now that, you know, our species has come, you know, from here to here, one of the benefits is that we can look back and draw parallels and say, well, you know, quote unquote science and wildlife management, you know, 101, like the first day in any wildlife management, pretty much explains that, you know, any hatchery fish or hatchery plant is, you know, inferior to wild. It just doesn't have that huge genetic line that's you know, lived through all these environmental challenges. And so again, that struggle for life and death facilitates life. So when we eliminate that struggle for life and death, we eliminate the viability of our species and our species' ability to survive. And so what I'm going to jump off from the last video is, okay, so, you know, what do we do with that? Well, part of this is just understanding that with eliminating these natural factors that our species has evolved with for, you know, however many thousands of years, whether you go back to whatever stage of hominid or whatever, 40,000 years versus the last few thousand, we've also eliminated our ability to identify life and death factors. The one most obvious one being in contemporary society right now is water, right? And, well, pollution in general and killing the environment. You know, how does a species not, you know, with supposed intelligence, not recognize that they're you know, killing their own environment? So that's one of the things, that this elimination of life and death is eliminated even the ability for people to see life and death. And so to kind of recap a little bit on the last video is that, you know, since we don't have these physical life and death struggles like the grizzly bear, and we've eliminated the grizzly bear, which is kind of, you know, nice in a way because you can see easy identifiable life and death grizzly bear. Now there's no grizzly bear. Well, the natural laws don't eliminate that struggle altogether, but it's now, instead of the physical, we've still got the mental, spiritual, emotional. And my personal belief is that since we don't have the physical challenges anymore, that all that energy is remanifested into the mental, emotional, spiritual. So now, of course, and it makes sense if you know anything about people, we have more mental, emotional, spiritual challenges. So the takeaway from the hatchery fish theory is that we really need to pay attention to what's going on in our mental, spiritual, emotional. And so that's like the next level of our species. And so that's the takeaway. So now, in order for our species to survive, one, I think the focus is planet, not people, not the human species. The human species doesn't matter. The planet matters. So that's a whole nother topic about, alignment and establishing, baselines for basically where our energy goes. And that's philosophy, and that's one of the things that I do is philosophy development, because our philosophy, that regulates where all of our energy goes. And so if we had to establish healthy philosophies, then our energy goes to, okay, my philosophy is that, paying attention to our mental, spiritual, emotional aspects of survival, since we don't have that physical aspect anymore in our day-to-day life. So now, that's one of these little tricks, little development tricks that I say, okay, so, I'm paying attention to that, I'm cognizant of that. Anyway, that's a little bit about that's the second part of the hatchery fish, is the takeaway there that I just wanted to get on, and that since our species, since our species has eliminated this physical fight for survival, which is imperative to our species survival, we need to look at the other factors, mental, emotional, spiritual, because the struggle for life and death facilitates life, and that's the survival of the fittest, basically. Go back there and Wildlife 101. So I just wanted to finish up and do that second part of the hatchery fish theory and philosophy, and working on my public speaking and that kind of stuff, fleshing out my theories and all that. So that's it. Thanks. Bye.